The Durranian tribunal was never meant to be defied, especially not by a human. To disobey the Concordat meant obliteration, not exile. And yet, here stood Kale Rowe, humanity's last recognized citizen in the Galactic Accord, staring down a dozen alien war judges with his hands raised and his eyes calm. He should have been terrified. He wasn't. Kale had already died once, 10 years ago, when Earth signed its final surrender after the URU-Drav conflict. Since then, humans had been scattered, sterilized, and assimilated. He was the last officially documented Homo sapiens with active citizenship. The last who had been left untouched because of what he did during the war, because of the blood he spilled for their cause. Now, they wanted his bloodline. The tribunal chamber smelled of burning ozone and sterilized bone. The 12 alien judges, each a different species, each ancient beyond human understanding, regarded him like a museum exhibit about to be archived forever. "You broke Concordat Article 73 Delta, Roe-Kale," hissed Judge Selrin, whose voice crackled through a crystalline mask. "You concealed an unregistered human offspring." Kale didn't flinch. "I didn't conceal her. I protected her." A hush followed. Not silence, because nothing in the Durranian tribunal was ever truly silent. The living walls murmured in neural pulses, translating unspoken signals from judge to judge. "You protected her with a phase shifter, stolen from a Jatan war priest," another judge snarled. Kale looked up, face shadowed by the room's harsh biolights. "She's my daughter, my blood, and you would have dissected her for study, like all the rest." There was no denial, just the shifting of tendrils and antennae. Discomfort. Selrin leaned forward. "You were permitted to live, honored even. You stood with us at the fall of Tiburon. But now, the crystalline mask glinted. You have shattered our trust." Kale took a slow breath. This wasn't a trial. This was a performance before execution. "You killed 5 tribunal agents," another judge murmured, almost admiring, "with only a magnetic blade. One of them was Ratuun. Impressive." "They tried to touch my child," Kale said coldly. "They didn't walk away." Selrin rose. "Your line must end." Kale reached into his coat slowly, ignoring the gasps, the hum of defensive protocols arming across the chamber. He didn't draw a weapon, just a small, jagged holocube, damaged, blood-stained. He placed it on the obsidian podium between them. A projection bloomed. A girl, maybe 8 years old, messy hair, laughing in a barren human scrapyard world. She was holding a bird, a real one somehow, and singing to it in broken Pangal dialect. "She's not a threat," Kale said. "She's a child." "She's human," Selrin said. "So am I." Exactly. For the briefest second, something flickered in the judge's mind-link aura. Regret, perhaps? Recognition? It was hard to read emotion through the alien collective neural web. But Kale saw it. He knew they feared her, feared what she could become. They remembered what humans had done in the final years of the war. The rogue AI we birthed, the gravity warp weapons, the neural virus we deployed against telepathic races. And they remembered, too, the fact that humanity had nearly won, until we were betrayed, fragmented, neutralized. Selrin turned, issuing a judgment with finality. "You will tell us where she is, or your execution will be protracted." Kale smiled for the first time. "Then it's going to be a very long execution." Behind his back, the implanted node in his spine flickered once, then twice. A signal, a pulse. One only his daughter would understand. Wherever she was, she would be watching. And she would know, run. Now. In the orbit of the dead moon Ether 4, a ghost ship drifted in silence. No transponder, no thermal signature, just a cold husk held together by patchwork shielding and human stubbornness. Deep inside its narrow corridors, a girl watched the trial unfold through flickering data streams projected from a cracked console. Her name was Lyra Rowe. Age, 9, human, 100%. "Dad," she whispered, voice tight, watching Kale's figure shrink beneath the looming judges. His voice, calm but defiant, echoed inside the feed, bouncing off her skull like a war drum. She should have been afraid. She wasn't. Kale had trained her for this. The signal pulse he sent from the node, that double flicker in his neural signature, was the fail-safe. The warning. Get out. Get far. Stay hidden. Survive. Lyra's fingers moved quickly over the console. The old Terran vessel creaked as she engaged the preset emergency vectors. No light, no sound. A jump through decayed slip-space paths left behind from forgotten wars. She felt the vibration of the ancient drive spool up beneath her feet, like a breathing beast waking from hibernation. Execute Phantom Protocol, she said aloud. Voice match confirmed, replied the static-choked AI. Evacuation vector plotted. Preparing zero-emission slip burst. She stepped away from the console and looked at the battered metal walls. Everything in this ship was old, welded from scrapyard parts and salvaged tech Kale had stolen from under alien noses. Everything except her. She was new, born post-surrender, born in defiance. Outside, slip space cracked like lightning, folding into itself. A glow surged across the outer hull. The ship vanished just as the first Duranian locator drone entered the system. Back at the tribunal, Kale felt the shift in his spine, the return ping. The response. She was safe. He didn't smile. Not this time. Not here. You've alerted her, Selrin said quietly, almost accusingly. She knew before I stepped into this room, Kale replied. You've trained her for war. I've trained her for freedom. Murmurs moved across the judges like ripples in acid. The concept of freedom, so often touted by humans, was viewed here with distaste. It was disorder, chaos. It had cost the Accord dearly during the conflict. Your species is done, intoned another judge, Judge Viral, a being made of mist and suspended bone. And now you teach your child the same path. Kale leaned forward, eyes unblinking. You destroyed our home. You scattered our people. You sterilized our women. And now you want to act surprised that one of us didn't lay down and die. The room pulsed red. A warning. He was no longer a defendant. He was now an enemy combatant. Again. Selrin's voice hardened. Where is she? You're not getting her, Kale said flatly. There was silence again, but this one was darker. Final. Then we begin extraction, Selrin said. From the walls, spindly machines detached, hovering toward Kale. Memory spiders. Neural leeches. They didn't kill. They extracted thoughts, slowly, painfully. Every secret peeled back like skin under fire. Kale closed his eyes. He welcomed the pain. But they didn't know the truth. He had burned the coordinates from his own mind. Not even he knew where she would go. Only the AI. Only the chain of dead-drop protocols they'd built over the years. She wasn't just hidden. She was untraceable. And more than that, she wasn't alone. Lyra emerged from cryosleep 4 jumps later, her breath fogging the glass of the pod. The ship was quiet, save for the hum of background systems. Outside the view screen, a red dwarf star blinked. A world rotated slowly beneath it, black, ruined, and crawling with heat signatures. Target world reached, Haven 13, the AI reported. Population unverified. Human DNA detected in clusters. Her heart leapt. Humans. Real ones? She stood up slowly, eyes wide as new light. A tiny piece of a future she thought extinct flickered inside her chest. She didn't know if Kale was still alive, but she would find the others. And if the aliens came hunting her bloodline, they'd learn just how dangerous one human child could become. The surface of Haven 13 wasn't welcoming. Lyra stood at the base of her landing ramp, dust swirling around her boots in crimson clouds. The atmosphere was breathable barely, and it stung her eyes like salt water mixed with battery acid. A broken moon hung overhead like a cracked skull, and the landscape before her was a graveyard of cities. Skyscrapers torn in half. Shuttles buried in ash. The remnants of war. She adjusted the emitter panel on her shoulder, flickering her life sign signature just below detectable thresholds. The ghosts of this place didn't need to know a new human had arrived. Not yet. Scans complete, the AI chirped inside her earpiece. Thermal activity in quadrant theta 9. High probability of organized shelter. life forms, partially human. Partially, she echoed, narrowing her eyes. DNA variants, 6.4%. Hybridization with alien strains probable. Origin unknown. Recommend caution. Lyra bit her lip. She was only 9, but Cale had taught her to calculate odds like a soldier and to hide emotion like a spy. Still, this place, it felt different. Old Earth hadn't had this smell, this watchfulness, like something under the surface was still breathing, watching, waiting. She moved, quickly and low, her boots making no sound. Between collapsed towers and sunken plazas, she weaved through wreckage until she found the remnants of a subway tunnel that led deep into the crust. Down there, the temperature rose. So did the whispers. The hidden enclave wasn't easy to find. She only noticed it when the air began to hum with static, resonant, pulsing, not mechanical. Biological. It wasn't until her own implanted nodes synced unintentionally that she realized it was human tech, but ancient. Early pre-war era. Black Ops frequency. And it recognized her DNA. A door unsealed in the rock with a hiss and groan like a waking beast. A blast of humid, recycled air swept over her, thick with sweat, steel, and unwashed bodies. Stop. Now. The voice barked from the darkness. She froze. Figures emerged armed, ragged, and not entirely human. Some had modified limbs. One had gleaming purple eyes and gills at her neck. A boy no older than Lyra had skin that shimmered like reptilian plating, a result of centuries-old augmentation that humans had once created to survive chemical wars. But they were alive, breathing, real. The leader stepped forward, tall, bearded, with a synthetic arm grafted to his right side. He held a plasma rifle low, but not relaxed. Name, origin, clearance, he said, his tone clipped. Lyra Rowe, she said. Daughter of Cale Rowe. Earthborn. Pure bloodline. The man stiffened. Others whispered behind him. Impossible, someone muttered. They sterilized them all. She's a plant, another said. A fake. No way she made it off Sol. Lyra reached into her coat slowly, carefully, and pulled out a thin shard of crystal. A blood key encoded with Cale's identity markers and his field commander seal. She held it up. My father saved the Accord from collapse at Tiburon. You all owe him your freedom. The leader stepped forward, took the shard, and scanned it on his neural band. It lit up. Recognition protocols engaged. Cale's voice played through an old speaker, crackling and half erased. If you're hearing this, then my daughter made it to you. And you're still alive. God help you if you aren't treating her like kin. A silence fell over the group. The leader gave a slow nod. I knew him. Briefly. At the end. He saved more than he destroyed. He held out a hand. Name's Jalen. You're safe here, Lyra. For the first time in days, her shoulders dropped. But only for a moment. Because deep in the tunnels, behind the camp, another signal pulsed. Not friendly. Not from this enclave. And not from this planet. In a high orbit, cloaked beyond the veil of Haven's shredded exosphere, a Duranian hunter frigate locked onto the faint trail of human slibburst residue. It had taken days to find. Now, they had her trajectory. The lead tracker's tendrils flexed as it hissed in triumph. Prepare the extraction team. We have the child's location. The survivors of Haven. 13 lived in the bones of an empire. Lyra walked the tunnels beside Jalen, eyes wide as they passed rusted turrets, cracked bunkers, and deep vaults scrawled with ancient human language. The enclave was hidden beneath what had once been a military black site, a relic from the human expansion era. Long before surrender, before Earth burned, Jalen motioned to a wall etched with names. These were the last soldiers of the Carice program. War children, grown, trained, deployed, and forgotten. We came here to die. Somehow, we just kept living. Lyra touched the cold steel. The names were in old Earth script, faded, almost gone. You're the first off-worlder we've seen in 7 years, he said. No one gets in. Nothing gets out. She looked up at him. That's going to change. Jalen gave her a look, half amused, half pitying. You talk like your father. I am my father, she said quietly. And more. In the command chamber, a young hybrid girl, Ari, was bent over a console, her mismatched eyes wide. Something's wrong, she muttered. There's movement in orbit. Non-natural. Jalen leaned in. Drift? Debris. Ari shook her head. No drift signature. It's tracking the old emergency bursts we sent 2 days ago. Before she arrived. Jalen cursed. It's them. The console beeped. The orbitals were heating. They found her, Ari whispered. Above the planet, the Dorinian Hunter frigate completed its orbital pass. 12 cloaked drop pods hissed free, entering the atmosphere like comets. Their outer shells shimmered with adaptive camouflage, hiding their entry from basic sensor sweeps. Inside, the extractors waited, silent, neural-linked hunters bred for single-purpose missions. Their target, capture the human child. Alive if possible. Dead if necessary. Failure was not a concept they were trained to understand. Below, Lyra stood in the ruined vault where her father had once trained others. Holograms flickered around her, combat simulations from another time. She stepped through flickering images of war. Human soldiers fighting telepathic horrors. Gravity distortions tearing landscapes apart. Orbital strikes cratering moons. You see why we stopped fighting? Jalen asked, approaching behind her. No, Lyra said. He tilted his head. She turned to him. You stopped fighting because you were told it was over. But they never stopped. They're still hunting us. Still erasing us. Every year, fewer of us remain. Jalen looked at her, searching for doubt. There was none. You want to fight back, he said flatly. I don't want to, she replied. But we don't have a choice anymore. The first strike hit without warning. A pulse round tore through the upper tunnel gate, followed by a concussion blast that ripped steel beams from their moorings. Alarms blared. Breach. Northern hatch compromised. Targets entering through access shaft 9. Jalen ran, barking orders. Evac teams to the lower bunkers. Form kill zones in chambers 3 and 5. Someone get the girl out. But Lyra was already gone. She moved through the chaos with calculated steps, her small form slipping through wreckage and flame as her ears rang from shockwaves. Behind her, plasma fire raked the walls. The extractors had arrived. One of them leapt into her path, a 3-meter-tall bipedal brute, armored with biochitin and enhanced vision arrays. It lunged. She didn't run. She remembered. Kale's voice in her mind, from training sessions in the void chamber. You don't beat them with strength. You beat them with fear. Make them hesitate. Make them think you're not prey. She triggered her pulse beacon. The hallway erupted in blinding light and ultrasonic shock. The extractor screamed, a high, clicking screech, as its neural link overloaded. It stumbled. Just for a second. But that was enough. Lyra slashed with a repurposed plasma cutter, jamming it into the joint of its neck plate. The heat flash hissed, and the creature dropped. Her hands shook. But she was alive. And now they knew she could kill. In the upper tunnels, Jalen fought like an animal. Rifle in one hand, blade in the other. He was bleeding from a gash in his shoulder, but he kept moving. He shouted across the comm. She's loose in the west tunnels. I lost visual. Anybody got eyes? Ari's voice crackled in. She's heading for the old launch shaft. We rigged the escape vessel last year, but it's not flight ready. It is now, a third voice said. Jalen paused. It was Lyra. On the open channel. I just needed a distraction. The escape shaft was more grave than corridor, lined with old bones and half-functioning conduits, forgotten by the Enclave for years. But Lyra moved through it like she had walked its halls 1,000 times. Her hand traced the seams of the wall, counting the flickers in the failing lights. 7 flickers, then the final ladder. Exactly like the schematics her father had burned into her brain. Behind her, the echoes of war followed, plasma bursts, alien shrieks, the collapse of human defenses. She heard Ari's voice once through the comms, cut off mid-sentence by a burst of static. Too late to save anyone now. The launch platform came into view, a black platform hanging over a molten crater, surrounded by scorched scaffolding and loose cabling. Above it sat a single jump cutter, Barely more than an engine strapped to a cockpit with enough shielding to survive one decent FTL burst. It had no weapons, no defenses, just speed, and a very short window. She clambered into the cockpit, locking the seals just as something howled down the tunnel behind her. One of the extractors, its lower limbs mangled, its body twitching from plasma burns, lurched into view. It screeched and charged, claws extended. Lyra slammed the ignition. The jump cutter's engine roared like a resurrected dragon. Fire erupted from its exhaust, swallowing the platform in flame as the launch rails flared to life. The extractor leapt, but the cutter surged upward in a geyser of heat and ash, flinging the beast into the pit below. In orbit, the Duranian frigate detected the launch before its cloaked sensors could suppress the signature. Unauthorized vessel, human model, minimal shielding. The captain's tendrils curled with disdain. Track and disable. But something was wrong. The cutter didn't broadcast a signature. It broadcasted two. Inside the cockpit, Lyra activated the Ghost Pulse, a decoy transmission modified from Kale's war tricks. The cutter now read as two jumpcraft, both identical, both real in sensor space. Duranian targeting AI hesitated. Target locked, adjusting trajectory. Too late. The cutter hit FTL. It tore through space-time like a bullet through skin, leaving behind only smoke, flame, and a dying world crumbling under alien boots. Jalen stood in the ruined command room, clutching a bleeding wound, watching the radar display fade to static. "She got out," he whispered. Ari, battered and half-conscious, coughed from beside him. Where's she going?" Jalen didn't answer. Because he didn't know. Because Kale had designed the emergency jump route to go anywhere but predictable. That child, he thought, isn't just running. She's circling back. The jump cutter re-entered normal space near a dying sun in the Marrow Rift, a region of space deemed off-limits by the Galactic Accord. Dead colonies drifted here. Silent wrecks from wars never recorded. Most NAV systems refused to even chart it. But Kale had charted it. Lyra floated over a gray husk of metal, an old human dreadnought, broken in two. Its name still flickered in ghost light. HSS Iron Veil. Her father's old ship. Before the war ended. Before the surrender. She docked with the dorsal breach and entered carefully. The air was thin, but breathable. Lights flickered, systems dead or dormant. Her feet echoed in the steel corridor as she walked past sealed cryopods, shattered data cores, and half-scorched banners bearing Earth's crest. Then she found it, the vault room. Inside were crates, marked with warning sigils. Some alien, most human. She opened the first. Inside, rows of frozen embryos. Pure human. Unaltered. Another crate, weapons. Not standard. Prototypes. Illegal. And, in the back, resting in an obsidian shell, a mine core. One Kale had always said was lost forever. Lyra activated it. The hologram flickered, resolving into her father's face. Older. Worn. Tired. Lyra, if you're seeing this, I'm either dead or worse. But that means you've made it. That means you're ready. Inside this ship are the last remnants of what we were. Soldiers. DNA. Weapons they were too afraid to let us finish. This is not just your inheritance. It's your warpath. You don't have to fight. But if you choose to, you won't be alone. The hologram paused. There are others. Scattered. Hiding. Waiting for a signal. Be that signal. Lyra stood in silence. Around her, systems began to hum. Power trickled into dead cores. Old AI systems stirred, detecting command authority through her gene print. Her voice was small, but clear. Wake the ship. The iron veil stirred to life. Lyra stood in the heart of the ancient dreadnought's command center, her small hands resting on the cold console. Power surged, reluctantly at first, then with increasing vigor as the ship's ancient engines hummed back into life. Around her, the dimly flickering lights of the vault room brightened, and the soft chime of alarms echoed through the walls, acknowledging the reawakening of systems thought long dead. Her father's voice, still lingering in the ship's databanks, filled the quiet space. "You're not alone, Lyra. I don't know who will come or when, but there are others." The message ended, leaving her with nothing but the hum of the ship and the weight of her decisions. For a moment, she just stood there, breathing in the cold air, her mind spinning. She wasn't alone. She never had been. Kale had set all this up for her, for the bloodline. The message, the ship, the weapons. It was more than survival, it was a rebellion, and now it was hers. The screen before her flickered, and the AI's voice crackled to life. Command protocols online. Ship systems functional. Awaiting orders. Her fingers hovered over the controls. This was more than a simple escape. Kale had intended for her to build an army, a resistance. The war didn't end with the surrender of Earth. It only shifted, and she had the means to bring it back. Her hand slammed down on the command input. Wake all systems. Activate protocol red. For a brief moment, nothing happened. Then, the ship rumbled. In the black void of the Marrow Rift, other ships began to stir. Long-forgotten remnants of the human fleet, ships left behind in the wake of the war when the Accord forced Earth to its knees. They had remained dormant, waiting for the signal. And now it was here. Hundreds of dormant warships, ancient dreadnoughts, and stealth vessels powered up, blinking to life. Inside their dark hulls, frozen warriors and soldiers began to stir from cryosleep. From each ship, from every corner of the rift, signals rippled out. The signal of rebirth. Back on Haven 13, Jalen stared at the screen, still in disbelief. "She's done it," Ari said softly, clutching the side of the command chair, her face pale. "She's really done it." Jalen didn't reply. Instead, he looked at the faint dots on the radar that slowly began to multiply. His eyes narrowed as more and more ships appeared on the screens. Human signatures. Thousands of them. More than he'd ever believed possible. They're coming. Lyra stood alone on the bridge of the Iron Veil, staring out at the swirling nebula of the Marrow Rift. Her hand gripped the armrest tightly, the ship's steady pulse beneath her feet a grounding force. Behind her, the faint hum of cryochambers being cracked open and the soft hiss of powered-up weapons systems echoed in the quiet of the bridge. The AI spoke again, its voice no longer just an echo, but a direct link. "Coordinates locked. Your father's final mission active." Lyra turned her head toward the screen. A map of the galaxy appeared, dotted with blinking red lights. These weren't just ships, they were entire systems. Hidden human colonies. Sealed rebel outposts. The last remnants of Earth's fighting spirit. And they were all waiting for her. She couldn't stop now. She couldn't turn back. "We have to move," she said, voice low but firm. "Get us out of here. Set course for the nearest rebel stronghold." The Iron Veil rumbled again as it powered through the rift, headed toward its first target. And Lyra, the last of Earth's bloodline, now the leader of the scattered remnants of humanity, stood ready to take back the galaxy. High above the void, the Durenian fleet had been watching. They had tracked the reactivation of the Iron Veil. And now, with their ships in motion, they realized what they were facing. "Activate the pursuit fleet," barked the Durenian commander. "Prepare for countermeasures." The Durenians had underestimated her, underestimated humans, for too long. They had thought that the final strike against Earth's descendants would be their last. But Lyra was different. She was an unknown element, unpredictable, dangerous. And now she had the means to fight back. As the Iron Veil left the Marrow Rift and entered open space, Lyra stood at the command center, eyes fixed on the stars. They were waiting for her, the fleet, the bloodline. And it would be more than just a fight for survival. This was the beginning of the second human rebellion. The galaxy held its breath. In the blackness of space, the Iron Veil led the charge, her once dormant engines now roaring to life as the remnants of humanity's forgotten fleet surged behind her. Hundreds of ships, old and new, creaked and groaned, their systems whirring back to life as soldiers, officers, and engineers awoke from their centuries-long slumber. Lyra stood at the helm, her hand steady as the ship's AI fed her data. But beneath her calm exterior, her mind raced. The Durenians were coming. They had never been defeated before, not on this scale. And yet, here she was, leading an army of humanity's last hope into the firestorm. Her father's words echoed in her ears. If you're seeing this, you're ready. Ready for what? To reclaim the galaxy? To crush the alien empire that had made humanity its enemy? She didn't have all the answers, but she knew one thing. The time for survival was over. This was war. On the Duranian flagship, the command center was a stark contrast. The alien captain, towering and covered in chitin, stood before the map of the galaxy, his tendrils twitching in frustration as the signals of the human fleet proliferated. "We underestimated them," he hissed. "Activate the entire fleet. We will make an example of them. And this now." His second-in-command, a sleek alien with glowing red eyes, stepped forward. "We have the advantage. Our fleet is 10 times larger than theirs. They will be wiped from the stars." "They thought they were extinct," the captain muttered, a cold fury in his voice. "We'll show them how wrong they were." He turned to his tactical officer, voice venomous. "Prepare to launch the final purge." Lyra stood at the command station as the star charts shifted, showing the incoming Duranian fleet. They were closing in fast. Her heart pounded, and her mind worked frantically. She had no illusion about the odds. It wasn't just a fight for survival anymore. It was a fight to reclaim everything humanity had lost. "We won't back down," she said, more to herself than anyone else. She locked eyes with Jalen, standing by her side, the grizzled veteran now fully attuned to his new role as second-in-command. "Ready when you are," Jalen said with a steady, unwavering voice. His eyes, once filled with skepticism, were now alight with resolve. "We fight for Earth." "Not just Earth," Lyra replied. "We fight for all of us." The Iron Veil led the charge into the heart of the Duranian fleet. Her hull gleamed as she fired a burst of deadly plasma, decimating a smaller alien scout ship. The battle had begun. The ancient warships of humanity, once relics, now pulsed with the fury of forgotten wars. They came alive with each strike, their guns blasting into the alien lines, punching holes into the sleek Duranian ships. But the Duranians were formidable. Their advanced shields absorbed most of the damage, and their retaliatory strikes shattered the hulls of nearby human vessels. Lyra's grip tightened on the console as her ship swerved to avoid an incoming missile. Her hand slammed the emergency lever, and the ship jerked, narrowly avoiding a deadly strike. The ship shuddered, and the AI announced, "Critical damage to port side. Shields at 27%. "Focus fire on their capital ship," Lyra ordered. "All ships converge on their lead vessel." Around her, the fleet responded. They were far outnumbered, but they fought with the desperation of a species that had been hunted to the edge of extinction. Every ship, every soldier fought not for victory, but for survival. In the heat of the battle, Lyra's voice was steady, despite the chaos. Her command was clear. "Deploy the boarding parties. We take the Duranian flagship from the inside." Jayla nodded, turning to the team of soldiers gathered at the rear of the bridge. They were ready. They'd trained for this. This was their moment. Lyra's heart raced as she watched the Iron Veil plunge toward the Duranian flagship, her ship's boarding pods already launched. They collided with the alien ship's hull in a series of violent impacts, ripping through the armor and sending shock waves throughout the vessel. The inner doors opened, and Lyra was the first to step into the alien ship, her gun raised. Behind her, her team of warriors stormed through the breach, cutting down Duranian soldiers as they made their way toward the control center. "Go," Lyra shouted. "Get to the control room." Her team moved swiftly, taking down alien guards with swift precision, their plasma rifles flashing in the dim light of the Duranian ship. The tension was palpable. This was it, the turning point. They had the chance to take the Duranian fleet's command from the inside, to break their hold on the galaxy. With a final push, they reached the heart of the Duranian command center. Lyra kicked open the doors, and inside, the alien captain stood at the center of a command console, his glowing red eyes fixed on her. "You're just a child," the captain sneered, his voice a low growl. "You cannot win." This war is over. Lyra's eyes were cold as she leveled her rifle at him. No, this war is just beginning. The captain lunged, but Lyra was faster. With a sharp shot, she struck him down. The alien's body crumpled to the ground, the control center now under her command. As the Duranian fleet began to falter, the humans pressed their advantage. The battle was far from over, but the tide had turned. The second human rebellion had begun, and Lyra, the last human who broke the alien laws for her bloodline, was no longer just a survivor. She was the beacon for humanity's resurgence.